everybody. Thank you for joining me for Pilates All Level. My name is Audra, and you might notice my lack of props today. That's because we're not using any props today. But if there are props that you need to make yourself feel successful, that's fine. Feel free to grab them. And today we're actually going to start with a little bit of mobility before we integrate the stability portion. So first, we're just going to come onto all fours. I'm just going to be on a little bit of an angle and just start to push into the ground, allowing your whole spine to lift towards the sky a little bit. Don't just press into your thoracic, right? Lift your belly button a little, let your tailbone curl, and then just go the opposite way, right? Let everything kind of sink to the floor. And then press up a little bit. Don't try to use too much force yet. We're just starting to get a little bit of movement through that spine. And press just a couple more. And last one. Come back to your neutral. Take your head and tail to the right. Slide your ribs to the left. So you're making a little banana shape. And then other direction. Just notice where you start to feel a stretch. Maybe it's in the side of your torso, maybe it's in your hip. It's back and forth. Two more. And if you need to come onto your forearms at any point, that's fine. And then come back to center. Slide one hand underneath your other arm, and we're going to bend that arm, get a little bit of rotation here. Inhale into the sides of your ribs. Exhale, rotate back to center. Good. And then slide the hand again. We're just doing the same side a few times. See how it feels each time you slide. Maybe you get a little bit more range. Maybe you keep the same range. And back. Two more. On this side. If your wrist, for any reason, doesn't love this, press into your fingertips and that pointer finger mound more than having all the weight on the heel of your hand. We get to do the other side. So place that palm down, slide that hand underneath, and just allow a little rotation. And then rotate back. Good. Just a few more here. If you notice that one side wants to hike or crunch, just think about lengthening from that side a little bit. Three more. And back, and two. Last one. And then come up onto your knees. As you're on your knees, just kind of check out where your hip bones, ribs, and low back are. So if your hip bones are pointing down or your ribs are really lifting, that could indicate some tightness in the front of your hips, right? So slide one foot forward. Think about kind of pressing that foot all the way into the floor. And imagine dragging that heel back towards you and just slide forward a little bit. See if you feel a small stretch. And then press into that foot to get you back. Tuck your tailbone a little bit and then drag yourself forward. Good. A few more. Now you might be like, this is easy. Great. Or you might be like, wow, I've been sitting more than I thought I was, which just gives us information, right? See if each time you can feel just a little bit more expanse of the tissue. I don't necessarily want more range if you don't have it. I just want the tissue to be able to relax a little. On this last one, hold. Think about your back foot. You're going to gently push your back foot down into the ground for 5, 4, it's gentle, it's sub-maximal, it's 10% of your ability. Big inhale. Big exhale, just relax and see if that gave you a little bit more movement. Yeah, good. Now we're gonna reach for that back foot. If you need to steady yourself, please do. And just bring it a little bit towards your glutes, right? If that immediately tipped you into an anterior tilt, that could indicate that potentially your quad is tight, okay? So think about your hand gently encouraging your foot to come towards you, and then gently push your foot into your hand for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. Now, just to see if you can, inhale, exhale, keep your foot right where it is, let go. Anybody else's hamstring talking? Yeah, for 5, 4, 3, 2, slowly lower it. Press yourself back and bring your hands to the ground. Now, if your back is rounding, it's not the end of the world, but if you can, send your sits bones away from you. So you're trying to flatten out your back a little and just start to notice where you feel the stretch. Flex your foot towards your face. Does the stretch change? And point the toe. Does the stretch change, right? It's just information. Sometimes we think we have tight hamstrings and we actually have tight calves. Now, if this feels good and you're like, oh, I feel kind of a stretch on the outside of my hamstring, take your inside hand, take it to the outside. If it's the opposite and you feel the stretch at the inside, do the other hand instead, okay? So we're just gonna point and flex a couple more times. And bring that leg back. Now come all the way up and just notice if maybe one side feels a little easier to be upright than the other. And I'm just gonna flip this way. Yeah. Now find that little tuck of the tailbone and just see where you're going. Maybe this is your exciting side. Maybe this is your easy side. And press back. Couple more. Good. If you go into a place where your back has to respond, you maybe just went a little too far. So if that's the case, just pull out of it like 5%. Good. Last 2. Last 1, hold, and just gently press down into your back foot for 5, 4, 3, 2, inhale, exhale, relax. And then just see what your body says. Oh yeah, now we're gonna reach for that foot. If for any reason it doesn't feel good to have your knee on the ground like this, you can always do a different type of quad stretch. You can do it standing, you can pad yourself. And maybe this is the spot that's tight. Maybe this isn't. We're gonna gently push into that hand for 5, 4, 3, 2, big inhale, big exhale, relax. And then see if you can keep your foot right where it is as you let go. For 5, 4, 3, you're all amazing. 2, last 1, let that foot come down, slide your hips back. Once again, if you're really rounding your back here, see if you can send your tail feathers back. Maybe your knee bends, maybe it doesn't. And just flex the ankle and then point the toe. Just start to see where the feeling is, right? Few more. Nice ankle dorsiflexion, you guys. I know that's a weird compliment to receive at like 11 o'clock in the morning, but I'm impressed. And then you can kind of notice if you feel the stretch more on the outside or inside, and use your hands accordingly, right? So if it's outside, bring your hands to the outside. If it's inside, bring your hands to the inside. Okay. And then you can continue to point and flex. Everybody's body is different. Everybody's movement patterns are different. So sometimes you just need to do the thing that feels right for your body. 2 more. Last one. And just come back onto your knees and see if you in fact can just be upright a little freer. Yeah, you'll look fantastic. Let's come on to our back. Bring one foot over the other leg in a figure 4 stretch. The ankle can either be in a plantar or dorsiflex position, so foot either pointed or flexed. Just keep that ankle nice and strong. And then if it's appropriate, bring that leg up, wrapping your hands around the thigh. And just breathe. If you're tucked, think about widening through your sits bones and see if that deepens your stretch a little. We're gonna hold for about 15 more seconds. Good. Just relaxing into the stretch. And then take your hands out from underneath your thigh. Slowly let that leg go to the ground. Arms can be out in a T or goalpost position. Keep the leg right where it is. Start to let that leg rotate. So the way the toe is pointed, that's the way the leg is going to go. And then bring attention to your waistline. Exhale, drag the ribs back. And again, allow that toe to direct where you go. And if it feels good, look the other direction. And then bring it back. Couple more. You might feel a stretch down your side body. You might feel a stretch in your hip. Last one. Hang out and breathe. Drag yourself back. We're gonna switch sides. So take that foot, bring it to the ground, figure 4 stretch, pointed or flexed, and see if it's appropriate to bring your other leg up. You just hang out and breathe. A few more breaths here. Just about 15 more seconds. As you feel any tension, think about expanding into that area with your breath and allowing it to relax. If a figure 4 doesn't feel good in your hip, you don't have to do one. Sometimes people find it better to just cross one leg over the other and let go and slowly let those legs lower. Think about where that toe is pointing, and we're just going to allow the leg to go that direction. Exhale, drag it back. A few more here. You're welcome to start looking the other way. A few more. Three. And just notice where you start to feel a stretch and breathe into that area on your inhale. We're almost there. Last one. And come back to center. Bring both feet down and just gently sway your knees to one side and then the other, just seeing where they fall freely without extension. One more, each direction. Just letting that low back relax. Come back to center. Allow both feet to point forward. So if you need to, you can even check where your feet are pointed. And then if your knees want to come in towards each other, take your hands, place them onto your thighs, and using your glutes only, press your knees into your hands. So your knees are lined up with your second or third toe. Hands can come to the ground. They can either be palm down or palm up, whatever feels better in your shoulders today. On your exhale, we're just going to think about hugging everything together. So on your exhale, think about your hip bones and ribs gently drawing towards your belly button without necessarily changing the shape of your spine. On your inhale, inhale wide into the sides and backs of your ribs. Exhale, hug everything together. Two more. On your last one, we're going to rock into an imprint. So exhale, imprint, rock back to neutral, and then inhale. Exhale, begin your imprint, rock your hips back to neutral, and then relax. Two more like this. Just starting to get that deep abdominal connection and a little bit more spinal movement. And just start to notice what your chin is doing as you imprint. Now, bring your hands to your hip bones and just lift your chin and then nod your chin, keeping your head down. And notice what your hip bones want to do when you move your head, right? So notice how as you lift your chin, your pelvis wants to move, right? Okay. Last one. Now, keep the length through the crown of your head. Come into your imprint. If your chin needs to move a little, that's all right. Press down into your feet and start to peel up into your bridge. Good. Now, if you think about really squeezing your glutes, chances are you can get into your low back. So I want you to think about pushing down into your big toe mound, dragging your heels towards you, and then at the end, the underbutt, the bottom glutes are gently active. Inhale, exhale, melt through your throat, your sternum, your ribs, your low back, and your sacrum. Couple more like this. Imprint, and then press into your feet to get you up. Yes, your abs are still active, and think of your abs slowing you down on the way down. Two more. We're going to experiment with something on this next descent. So in your bridge, find those glutes a little bit, and on the way down, use your glutes to slow you down, right? The abs don't have to work very much. Now come back into your bridge. And on this next one, relax your glutes and use your abs almost exclusively to slow you down. Do you feel the difference? Yeah, it's just neat. The exact same move, different intent. Last one. Come all the way down. Okay. Interlace your hands behind your head. Spiral your elbows forward into your periphery, and then shoulder blades draw down your back. Exhale, curl into your chest lift. Good, and just hold for a second. And just notice if as you lifted, if you kind of domed a little in your abs, it's not the end of the world. It just means your rectus abdominis is doing extra work. While still being here, Think about sinking your low abs down. See if that helps you be a little bit more connected. And then slowly lower. On your next one, think about sinking your low abs down first, and then curl. See if everything is working in tandem, right? Good. And ideally, we're looking towards our knees or in between our thighs. 2 more. Good. Elbows in your periphery, right? So if our elbows are too wide, that means our serratus can't activate. So if we gently externally rotate our arm bone, our serratus anterior, which is technically a shoulder muscle, can help us. Good. This last one, hold it up. Bring your hands forward and push them into an imaginary wall. Good. And then hands come back behind your head. Slide one foot out away from you on the ground. Push the heel down into the ground, hopefully getting your hamstring a little bit active, yeah? Now using your hamstring, drag that leg back, other side. Good. Press down, 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 and drag it back. So I know I said we weren't using any props today, and that means we weren't using any extra props, but we're gonna use the floor as a prop for some of this. A few more. Pressing down and drag. Good. Still curling your collarbones toward your thighs. Last one. Good. Now push one foot into the ground and imagine that's your gas pedal as you float your other leg to tabletop. Reach that leg away, push it down into the ground as the other leg floats up. Now, if you need to, you can always bring your head down, no problem. If your head is down, think about hugging everything together and gently pressing your sacrum into the ground, as well as the back of your head gently into the ground. Good. Couple more here. And 2. And just notice as you do this, if one hip wants to hike or drop. Notice without judgment, it's just information. Last one, each side, allowing that thigh bone to slide into the socket as opposed to being pulled forward. Now head comes down, bring one leg at a time into your tabletop. Hands behind your thighs. Push your thighs into your hands to get that hamstring activation and squeeze your inner thighs together as if you're trying to pop a balloon in between them. Good. Now we're gonna slide our hands underneath our sacrum, making a little triangular shape. Now this is just offering information, right? So feel your weight be heavier on your thumb, connect your thigh bones to your ribs, and slowly let your knees go away from your face, still trying to keep the weight on your thumb. Squeeze the inner thighs to allow the legs to come back. And let them start to slowly go away from your face, squeeze the inner thigh to come back. Now, as you let your legs go away from you, if you go all the way to the ground, chances are you're then gonna have to reconnect and possibly start using other muscles to get your legs back into the air. So maybe allow your toes to graze the floor, but you don't actually have to let them go all the way. 2 more. Good. Last one. Extend your legs towards the sky. Now, let one leg start to go down, 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 down. Maybe it gets to the ground, maybe it doesn't. Flex that foot, float it back up. Other side. Point it on the way down. Flex and float on the way back. So it's almost like you're trying to reach through your heel to allow yourself to get that elevation back to center. Now, maybe this is where you are today. That's great. Maybe you'd like more challenge. Making sure you don't go past your range of stability, squeeze your inner thighs, push your feet away from you rather than to the ground, and then flex, float them both up. Yeah. Everybody feeling their abs just a little bit? Yeah. And our head is down, right? We have just a couple more. We have 3. And 2. Last one. Bend your knees, hug them towards your chest, take your hands out from beneath your sacrum, and bring your feet back to the floor. Now, maintaining your neutral pelvis, float one leg to tabletop. We're gonna take the heels of our hands and thinking about using those armpit muscles as opposed to our shoulder muscles, push into the leg and match your pressure with your leg. Hopefully that increases that abdominal connection. And then bring the foot down, other side. Think about closing the ribs gently. It's less of a hunker down to the ground and more like your ribs are trying to point towards your belly button. Now, maybe this is where you are today as we go back and forth. Maybe you would like to bring both legs to tabletop and just tap one of the toes down as you press on the other leg. Now, maybe this is still too easy for you. And you're like, I would like more challenge, please. No problem. Interlace your hands behind your head, come into your chest lift, and we're gonna just bring the same side hand as leg. So we're still pressing because we're trying to find that isometric contraction. And that will get a little bit more excitement from those muscle fibers, right? Good, couple more. Same side hand as leg. So if I'm lifting my left leg, I'm pressing in with my left hand, right leg, right hand. One more each side, keeping your torso nice and still. Now all we're gonna do is take the arm across. So opposite arm and leg now. So press and notice how that changes the muscles that are working. If your head is down, great. Still switch arms. If your head is down and feet are down, it's still the exact same move. It's just that march. No problem, right? We have 4, 3, 2 more. Last one. Hug your knees in. Give yourself a small break. Yeah. Now, bring your hands to the shin of one of your legs. You're gonna think about your armpits hugging down into that shin, but your hamstring is gonna push that shin into your hands. Lift your chest with it. And then come back down. Let's do a couple more. So you've got that nice connection, and then you press and it lifts you. Yeah. Everybody feel how as soon as that leg lifts, those abs kick on a little bit more? So you've got that isometric contraction between upper and lower body. Hold this last one, bring your other leg to tabletop, push it away, and then bring it back. Push it away. And if your hip flexor is like, ooh, I'm doing too much work, extend the leg and then bring your heel to the ground, drag it in from that hamstring. 2. Last one, switch legs. So foot comes down, hands come to your shin, find your serratus and lat a little bit, and press up and back down. Good. And we're still staying kind of low. We're not curling all the way up. 2. Last one. And then bring that leg up, push it away. And then let it come in. Trying to keep yourself in that neutral spine or neutral pelvis. 3. Looking forward. 2. Last one. If you're elevated, hands come behind your head. We're gonna push and rotate. And then you can take your hand, place it on the outside of your thigh, press your thigh into your hand, hold, and then switch. Now, if your head is low, no problem. Exact same move, head stays down. So with that push, we're trying to find that armpit, right? Lat and serratus and oblique. And then we're also trying to find side glute here, right? So it's really easy to kind of lift the hip, but using that side glute to press equally into that hand helps. Good. Few more. Think of that foot pushing away from you rather than to the ground. 3. 2 more. Last one. Come back to center. Legs stay up, head comes down for a second. So extend your legs towards the sky. And you can always do this with your head elevated. I'm going to show both ways. Reach one foot down to the ground. Hands come behind either your calf or your thigh. Just gently bring the leg a tiny, tiny bit closer to you. Then use your abs to keep it there. And then switch legs. Right? Hold for a second, feel where your leg is. If it has to bend, it's fine. Come towards you just a baby bit, then use your abs to keep it there. And then switch. It's like we're sharpening scissors, okay? If you want, your head can come up. Same thing. Bring it in slightly, use your abs to keep it there. And then switch. If your leg can't go all the way to the ground without your pelvis dropping into it, don't worry about it. It doesn't have to. Okay. One more each side. Last one. And then hands come behind your head. We get to rotate and rotate. Now, once again, you can always put your head down. Use your arm instead, okay? And if your head is down, bend your knees in between. Otherwise, they can switch mid-air. Good, 4, 3, 2, trying to keep your hips nice and still and stable. Last one. Come back to center, knees in. Gently rock from side to side. Hands come to the outside of your shins. And if you have kind of tight lower back, let your knees come out to the side slightly. And we're just going to curl and look at our feet, press our legs into our hands a little, and then come back down. Let's do a couple more. Notice how it starts to rock you Yeah, good, good. Yeah, beautiful. And we're gonna do rolling like a ball, you guys. So, however, if you're rolling like a ball is kind of like, well, this feels bad, right? Instead of doing full rolling like a ball, start back here, right? That's okay. Otherwise, scoot towards the front of your mat, nod your chin a little because we want to make sure we're not going to bunk our head. Toes come up, and then hollow out through the front of your body, right? So you kind of round your back a little bit. Yeah, look at your toes. That's important. Look at your toes throughout. Inhale, look at your toes. Exhale, look at your toes. Yeah, good. Inhale, exhale. Good. Yeah. Curl, look at your toes, look at your toes. Yeah, there you go. So the reason I want you to look at your toes, in case you were wondering, is much like at the beginning where we saw where our pelvis went when we move our face, our whole body does the same thing. And it's harder to come up smoothly if we start to look at the sky. Last one. Yeah, and then bring your feet forward, scoop back. Good. Now, gently pressing your heels into the ground. Think about lifting your kneecaps up your leg a little. Hands can either be out to the side or on your shoulders. Yeah, whatever feels better. We're just going to rotate to one side. Inhale, exhale, rotate, and then back. Now, if you're here, fine. Now, if you're like, oh, I can't sit up, and if you feel like you're being pulled back, bend your knees, right? No problem. If you're like, well, that's not comfortable for some reason, you can fold your mat and sit up on it. You can even cross your legs, okay? Whatever works for you and your body today is what I would like you to do, right? Good. Couple more. Lengthening through the crown of your head. So it's as if the top of your head is suction cupped to the sky and your spine is just a string of pearls falling below it. Last one like this. We're going to rotate to one side. Then we're reaching our palms, flip them both. It's okay to round here. And then flatten out through your back, hinge up, come back. So we're rotating, rotating, flexing, keeping that rotation, flatten out through your spine, hinge up. Good. Couple more. Hopefully this feels all right in your back. If it doesn't, don't do it. And if it doesn't feel okay in your hips, bend your knees, right? Stay in a position that feels good for you and your body today. Last one on this side. Flatten, hinge, and come back. Hands come forward. Now, if you can reach your toes, reach your toes. If you can't, reach where you can, okay? So think about your armpits hugging down your back, lifting your ribs up, and then if you can reach your toes, push your toes into your hands. If you can't, still think about pulling your hands towards you, okay? Then hands come forward, lift the ribs, we're curling back, we're doing roll-ups. If you have a prop that you need for successful roll-ups, that's fine. Arms come overhead, think of drawing them down from the ribs. Then inhale, exhale, curl. Yeah, good. Now let's talk about this, you guys. If as you're rolling down, you feel like your leg is being pulled out to the side, intentionally widen your feet and see if it makes it a little easier. If it does, that could mean that your abductors are a little tight, right? If as you're coming up, either you go, whoop, or your feet lift, bend your knees a little and see if that allows for a little smoother transition. You can also always use weights, you can use a pad underneath your back. Whatever works for you to smoothly and gently come up, right? So it's like you're sinking your spine down, allowing that movement to occur gently, right? A lot of times, if we have to fight it and force ourselves up, we're not actually getting as much out of it, right? So even if on your way up, you need to use a leg to support you, that is okay. Last one like this. Good. Now we're going to add on. All right. Now, one arm comes out to the side like a little chicken wing. Don't worry, you don't have to keep it there. It's just there for one or two. As you lift, that arm is going to direct you to a small rotation. And then come back down. Same side, small rotation. Yeah, good. Whether the legs are straight or bent is all fine. Now, if you're like, cool, that's pretty easy, you can always use both arms. Okay? And if you're like, great, I'd really like more excitement in my life, the leg you're rotating towards, think about that inner thigh, and it's going to help lift. Yeah. And that's just an option. If you're like, I'd like more excitement, teasers are my favorite thing in the world, great. Suction cup your thighs together, push them away, and let both of them lift, right? If you're like, that's not something that's gonna happen for me, guess what? That's fine. If you need a break, great, take one. This is the last one on this side. Good. And then hug your knees in, let your low back relax, give yourself a second before we go to the other side. Now, the good news is one side might be really easy in comparison to the other one, right? So extend those arms, give me the little like chicken wing, and just lift and allow yourself to get a little rotation. I just chicken winged right onto our music. And then all the way down. And then up, right? Maybe that's where you stay. Maybe you let both arms help. Yeah. Gorgeous, everybody. I just have a few more. Yeah. Maybe you think about suction cupping that leg into the socket and using your inner thighs to help get one leg up, right? Maybe that's too easy for you. Now, if you're doing it and you're like, oh, but when I get here, it's just challenging, you can use that leg to help you, right? And that's okay. You can also think about both legs moving as one. And maybe this is your easier side. This is my harder side. So when I get up, I'm just gonna touch my leg to help remind myself that I've got this. Last one. And then knees bent, feet together, relax over your legs. And breathe. Guess what? We're done with those. We are going to come on to hands and knees. Now, if for any reason a plank doesn't feel great, you can stay in quadruped, you can be in a knee plank. And if your hands or wrists are like, I don't love planking on my hands, you can always come onto your forearms. But first, let's just find neutral spine. And as we exhale, think about our abs just gently hugging up without changing the shape of our spine. And now pay attention to your arms. Think about gently trying to pull your mat apart and then drag the heels of your hands towards you. Everybody finds how that just connects them a little bit more to their abs? Slide one foot out, push it down into the ground. Good. And let that heel kind of press away from you. And then bring it back. Other side, slide it out, push down into the ground. Good. Now maybe this is where you are. No problem. If you're like, yeah, that's great. This is where I stay. Fantastic. Otherwise, slide a leg out. Other leg comes to meet it. And then bend one knee underneath you, reach it back, hold. Other side. Trying not to shift your hips or shoulders, right? Yeah. 3, 2. Last one, each side. Knees down. Press yourselves into a rest position. Now, while we're here, let's get a little bit of activation through our mid-back. Slide your arms down, pressing into the mat with hands and elbows. Now think about your shoulder blades drawing down your back. Lift your collarbones forward and start to straighten your arms. And then come back down. Try to get the muscles in your mid-back to do the work as opposed to your lower back. Good. Couple more. Heather, is that feeling okay in your mid-back? Okay, good. Yeah. Last one like this, unless this is where you are, right? We can always add on. Take your one hand, place it on your shoulder. Take that elbow out to the side. So we're not retracting, it's like we're widening as if we're taking off a big jacket. And then start to rotate as you straighten that arm. And then back. And then start to rotate as you straighten that arm. Couple more. So our thoracic spine is supposed to be able to rotate, especially when we're walking. One more. And then we get to do the other side. Widen through that elbow. Start to rotate as you straighten that arm. Don't force a range, right? If something you're like, well, it's not going anywhere. Instead of forcing it, just hang out for a second. Inhale. And then exhale, tell your nervous system you're safe and see if it wants to give you a little bit more. If it does, great. If it doesn't, fine. 2 more. Last one. Go ahead, slide out onto your stomach. As long as it feels all right. If for any reason it doesn't, you don't have to be here. Suction cup your hands to the ground. And then think of a lat pull. So you're pulling the shoulders down, engaging your armpit muscles, and then using those muscles to get your elbows to a goalpost. Okay? Gently activate your glutes like you're trying to lift them. Now press your hands and elbows into the ground to spiral your collarbones up a little bit. Think more about being shot out of a cannon rather than getting height. So nod your chin slightly, you're gonna look down. Inhale, exhale, float your arms and come back down. Now, if you felt your low back, you came up too high, okay? Think of reaching long as you press your hands and elbows into the ground. That is how you're lifting. Hold that, squeeze your glutes, and then float your arms up. If you lift with your arms floated, you're working different muscles, okay? So we're trying to bypass your erectors by getting your lats and glutes on, and then we are challenging your multifidus. If it does not feel okay to be on your stomach, you can do quadruped bird dog, where everything just hovers, okay? So press down to lift you up. Don't lift without your hands. Yeah, yeah. Good. Last one. So push to spiral, yeah. Then elevate. Yeah, does that feel a little different? Yeah. Let's try one more. So this should feel less intense because we're trying to get our tiny little stabilizers. Now your hands can come forward. We're just going to start to move our legs. Now, if it's really causing a whole lot of back and forth, slow it down. Now, if you want, opposite arm and leg. Reaching away rather than up, right? That up is going to cause those erectors to do more work. 2. Last 1. Nice job. Roll on to your side. Now, your arm can be used for your head. You can bend that bottom knee if you need a little bit more support. Imagine sliding a sheet of paper underneath your ribs so it lifts. We're trying to get that nice straight spine. Now, push your top foot so far away from you that it lifts to hip height. Now, imagine it's against a wall, right? Push into that wall, that glute max is going to kick on. Hold. Now, paintbrush your foot up and then squeegee it down, okay? Paintbrush the foot, it's reaching away from you and back down. Letting the thigh bone sink. If the hip hikes, we're actually starting to use that QL as opposed to glute, and we're trying to find that glute. 2 more. Last one, hold. Now allow the hip to hinge in the socket, bring it forward, then point the toe, drag it back as if you are dragging it through wet sand, finding that little bit of ab engagement so we're not dumping into the ribs. Point. Good. Couple more. 3. And 2. Last one, hold it back. And tiny little circles here. 5, 4, beautiful. Letting that thigh bone stir in the socket. 3, 2. Now reverse. 5, 4, 3, 2. Hold. Now, hopefully that glute is nice and active. We are just going to extend that bottom leg, roll onto our stomach. And then think about that leg lifting and rolling us back. Okay. And then come down. You can move that arm accordingly. Just getting a little bit of movement from the bottom of our spine up. Doesn't have to be a big lift. Think of it more like a hover. Good. And back down. And then we get to go to the other side. And I'm going to turn around. And that bottom leg can be extended or bent. Lifting your bottom ribs as if I wanted to slide a sheet of paper under you. You just want to make it easy for me. Bring that leg to hip height, push it away. Imagine it against that wall so that glute max is kicking on. So you're just pushing your heel back slightly. Now paintbrush it up, pushing it away from you and then down. Good. Hey, Julia, reach your foot away from you. Try to push, tap it onto that wall. Yeah, yeah. So not up, but towards the wall. Like try to kick the reformer. Yeah. Do you feel how that like gets more glute? Yeah. Good. So think of a paintbrush, right? If you're trying to paintbrush the far wall, you're still having to reach for it, right? 2 more. Last one. Bring it back to hip height. Flex that foot, allow the hip to hinge, and then point the toe and reach it back without letting the low back come with it. Good. And reach. Good. Beautiful. Good. Give me just a few more here. 4, 3, Nice, good. Last one, hold it back. Tiny little baby circles. 5, 4, try to drag it back from the glute. Our glute max is our prime hip extensor, and then reverse. Hamstrings help, but they shouldn't be our primary mover most of the time. 4, 3, 2, 1. Extend that leg, and we're just gonna roll onto our stomach, and then that leg comes back. Now, once again, it's not about height, it's just gonna float, and then rotate. And then rotate back, bring it down. If for any reason this doesn't feel okay in your back, do not do it. We have just a couple more. If it doesn't feel great in your back, instead, lift, lower, maybe roll, and then roll back. Okay? No problem. Last one like this. And then we're gonna stay on our stomach. Bring your hands down, shoulder blades draw down, still hug your belly button up, and we're going to gently start to press into our hands, right? So once again, we're not just moving from our low back, we're trying to move through our whole spine, right? So like the Little Mermaid when she goes up onto the rocks, she like lifts her whole spine. And maybe you don't lift high, right? Sometimes this is where I am, and that's much better than trying to go into a bigger range, right? Last one. And then press yourself into your rest position. Hands up and over to one side. Press your hips away, stretching through that side body. And then other side. We're going to come to standing. So any way you need to is fine by me. And we're just going to end with a little baby bit of balance work. Let's integrate some of this. So bring one foot forward. And you're just going to try to keep that back foot pointed forward. If it starts pointing out, bring it back. Push into your big toe mound to push your weight over that front foot. And then rock back, letting your ankle lift. Good. Now, that looks great. If you're ready, look over one side, hello. And then turn and look over the other side. Yeah, and then turn and look, and turn and look. Now, if you're feeling especially balanced, close your eyes. And all of a sudden, it's a whole new world, right? 2. Oh, yeah, same. Last one. We're challenging our visual system, our vestibular system. Let's do that other side. Yeah, making sure toes are pointed forward. Push off that big toe mound to bring you forward. And then back and lift your heels. So guess what this is, mimicking. Gait, walking, yeah. Something we probably do every day, right? And then we can start looking over one shoulder and then the other shoulder. If you accidentally make eye contact with someone, smile, wave at them, And then if that feels good, you'd like more challenge, try closing one or both eyes. Couple more. Good. And bring your feet together. Now, all we're going to do is look over one shoulder. Let the body move. Yeah. And then other side. Good. Now, if you feel blocked, make sure that you're not trying to pull one shoulder forward or your opposite shoulder back, right? Let the shoulder that you're rotating towards draw back slightly. Last one, each side. Good. Nice. Bring your feet together. Thumbs are going to spiral out. Collarbones open. And then come back, slide your shoulders up. Let gravity drop them down. Nice job, you guys. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great rest of your day. Yeah, how'd everything feel, you guys? Yeah. Oh, thank you, Yvonne.